What is up, everyone? Coming back at you with another video, and in today's episode we are once again going to be tackling some electrical gremlins on the S13, which is kind of becoming typical for this car. In today's episode, stepping into the car, we are trying to get the gauges to light up. When I hit the switch, we have got no lights on the gauges. However, after wiring in the taillights, which we did in the last video, if you guys haven't seen that, be sure to go back and check that out. We have gotten the nighttime backlight for the digital clock, which is kind of funny. I didn't even know this was a digital clock, and then I was like, oh wait, that's probably a clock, and then I looked it up and sure enough. But also, this clock does not work. It only lights up the background now. So two things with the gauges. I'm going to try and get the gauge lights to work. Everything on these gauges work. Every single light works, except for the coolant gauge does not work for some reason, which, you know, this is why we have a coolant gauge over there. But now I'm trying to get all the lights to work, including these lighting up at night, because I can't see how fast I'm going or RPMs or anything like that during nighttime. Also, I think I'm going to clean the MAF today. I got some mass airflow sensor cleaner, so we're going to do that as well as probably adding some camber to the front. The rears are cambered out a good bit, so it makes it look like the fronts have negative camber, which, you know, we can't really have our stance looking like that. So I'm probably going to add some camber to the front wheels today, unfortunately for tire wear, but good for looks. So those are the things you can be looking forward to in today's video. Let's get it. Okay, so anyone that knows anything about S13s knows that anytime you take out this gauge shroud piece, it's some risky business, because it really is tightly squoze in there, and this piece right here is susceptible to cracking. And so many S13s, this piece is cracked in half right here, and luckily mine is not cracked, and I want to keep it that way, and so we're going to very carefully be taking it out. So I've got to take this piece off here, which, as you can see, mine is not really connected. Still need to find the bottom clamshell. I might take the wheel off, not exactly sure, but then we've got to take this out and start unplugging a few things, and then we can actually get to the gauges there. So that's what we're gonna be doing next. Here we go. Okay, so we got the gauge cluster out, and it has one of these circuit panels on the back, which is one of these flexible type deals, and it has the circuits and pathways for all the electricity to get where it is supposed to go. Most everything is here, and most everything works on this gauge cluster. I am missing the backlight for like the fuel gauge and some of the other warning lights down here, and same goes for this corner. Not sure why those are there, but our main concern today is the fact that these lights for the gauges do not work. These are the main lights. I guess someone at one time tossed some LEDs in here. Could be the problem. Maybe we'll pop this out and throw in a regular bulb. Honestly, I don't know what stock color and lighting is supposed to look like for these gauges, but I kind of want to do like an old school, like green kind of color. You probably have seen it on a lot of like old school key rings, kind of that old school green. And so that's kind of what I'd like to do if I'm able to get this to work and have the option to customize it. So we're going to work on that. I need to do some research now. I don't know how the clock works. A brief look on the forums, and it sounds like maybe it has something to do do with the radio and the antenna, and that's how the clock works and gets its time. Not really sure about that, but that could be the case. I don't have a radio, I don't have an antenna or any of that, so maybe that's why this doesn't work. But here's the bulb for the clock, and like I said, this bulb does now work. Just trying to figure out maybe how I could get some power to the clock and make that work. So that's what we're going to be working on next, and hopefully we can get this solved. Okay, so this right here is supposed to be the ground for a number of things, including the clock. And so when I ground that, and then for some reason when I run power to this, it says battery, the clock comes on. The power that is supposed to supply the battery is this one right here, but when I wire in power to that one, it does not turn in the clock. So I'm not really sure what is going on with that. This is literally the circuit for power. And so if I put power here, that should work, but it doesn't. It only works when I put power here, which is okay. It makes it pretty simple because now I just have to take this screw off, and then we're gonna have a fitting that will slip on there with power, and then that should work. And then I have just recently discovered something that I'm pretty stoked about, which I'll tell you about next. All right, so while I've had the cluster out, I've taken the opportunity to kind of clean it out a little bit. Unfortunately, I've got like some overspray or something that has gotten on this. It kind of honestly drives me nuts, but the rest of it is really cleaned up. Also took the opportunity to go ahead and clean this as well as glue up this crack a little bit. If anyone wants to gift me a brand new OEM Nissan gauge cover, that would be awesome. And honestly, I kind of want a new cluster as well. Put this back together and then get it in the car. All right, check it. So we've got the digital clock, and honestly, that is so sick. You do not understand the amount of times I've wanted a clock in a car. I think I've owned, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 cars at this point, and every single one of them have not had a clock on the inside. I think the Z did have a clock, but if you were like listening to a CD or anything, the clock like wouldn't show unless you had everything off. Like you weren't listening to the radio or you weren't listening to a CD or something like that. Like I never saw the clock. Every other car, I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have a clock. Like, it's just nice to have a clock just right there on the gauges. How sick is that? Unfortunately, when, let's say I set this, let's say it's 101. Turn the clock off. It is not saving because the power for this is connected to the accessory wire over there. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is end up running that to constant power, so that is always on, and then we're going to be able to have the clock working all the time. I'm probably not gonna do that today, and honestly that's just gonna be another drain on the battery. I'm sure this car has several of them, but for now, clock works and we can go forward from there. I'm gonna get the rest of this buttoned up, wrap up, and then I'll get back to you at the end of the video. Guys, we have successfully got the gauge lights to work on the 240. We even got the digital clock to work, which I'm super stoked about. Currently has like some amber bulbs in it, just some that I had lying around, and you saw a video of that just barely. I actually went ahead and ordered some green bulbs, which is kind of a nod to the cars of the early 60s. Instrument clusters, instrument panels, gauges usually kind of had a green glow to them, and I kind of like that old school vibe, and I'm very much wanting kind of like a retro look with this 240. And so I've got those on the way. They haven't showed up yet. Maybe I'll update this video when they show up, but we did get the lights to work and we got the digital clock to work. It's pretty cool. I mean, it does have to sit and run off the battery because I had to connect it to constant power. Shouldn't be a huge drain, and I always have it on the battery tender anyways, but it's cool that that works and that we have lights inside the gauges finally. And so now I can see kind of what's going on at night with the gauges. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I'm going to wrap it up here. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and peace out. If anyone's afraid of doing this, it's really not that bad.